It's really.
What is it? That's for you.
Thank you.
A lady.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
I give you l'chaim. Yeah. Yeah. You bench it. Oh, mate. I give you l'chaim.
Good health, everybody. Good news.
Oh, man.
Go have a cool already.
Oh, man.
Yeah, here's the goal. Right? Complete. Each and every week. Yep.
Okay. What is this?
Still, you call that from.
No. There's a gap.
Trying to
Yeah.
save yourself.
Wow. Okay.
Isaac, you want more? Here's another portion of the mashka from the other.
Oh, Isaiah's got.
This looks like it'll be an action-packed shear.
Yes.
When you see Mara McConley's
Yes.
this thick, get ready.
Yes. Can I give you some junk?
I don't know. I'll take just a little bit.
This is good.
Change the name of it to Hamim.
Hamim, right? That's that you talk.
That's beautiful.
Come in, just means hot stuff, right?
And that's it. The Swedish way is Carney
Hamim is probably older than Shulman. Older than Shulman.
I'm biting in Amazonas.
The Shulchan Aruch is Shua.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Look at the whole ramble in it. There's a lot.
What's going on?
Main ingredients.
Kasha?
L'chaim. This is the kasha tonight.
Oh, it's kasha, so it's not
I'm joking. We made a joke.
Don't get me.
Yeah, kasha.
Oh, you got it.
Okay. It's
Wow.
and the closest you're gonna get.
Right.
Okay, everyone got a booklet?
Yeah.
Okay. Many years ago, 1999, right at Rosh Hashanah, there was a surprise that Rebbe came out, and he distributed this booklet. It's Surim Va'oretz L'Sefer L'Kutei Amorim Tanya.
What year was it?
1999.
I'm sorry, 1989.
Or 89. 99.
Yeah. So
The
truth is that
to be 99, right?
for a long time in the Kahos, you could buy this book. I went into Kahos today, and they said, sorry. We even did a second. Isaac, can you move in a drip? So they said, sorry, we ran out.
Wow.
So I printed out the copies on the computer.
On the computer.
Since it's a special Chavivus, it's Yutas Kislev, and it's the Chag HaChagim. So first of all, we jumped up Linda Chassidus, B'Tar Kech Chassidus, the Kaseva Seitzayim. Mr. Rebbe's Dala, you use a bookmark, and finally, I said I want to do this thing. It's a special. I said for the oilam that's coming into Lontanya, that's schlepping out on a cold night, and the Chassidus warms up the cold. So let's go straight into it. Matam, the Michta Kveit Kedushas Admar Shlita. This is a letter from the Frierdiker Rebbe to someone. We don't know to who, but there's a question in the Tanya, and he's answering the question. Matam, the Shinui Lashoina Akodesh Akveit Kedushas Rabbeinu Betanya Pedik Daled, Ba'omre Shuhu. The Alter Rebbe writes, "Who Ayudea v'hu Amada." Ma'imre bePerik Beis, "Who Amada v'hu Ayudea Ad Kan Loshen Hashoya." The person that asked the question was wondering, was the Alter Rebbe tired at night, like I like to say always about Rashi? He mixed it up a little bit. In Perik Beis, he wrote, "Who Amada v'hu Ayudea." Perik Daled, "Who Ayudea v'hu Amada." Otherwise it looked like cut and paste plagiary. So he mixed it up a little bit. Says the Frierdiker Rebbe, Yeshlishel Aloi Maimazeh, maybe create Kedusha Rabbeinu b'Shem Rambam. V'Shem Nemer Gimel Lashonis Mada Yadua Deya Atzmai. V'T create Kedusha Rabbeinu Masker Akshnai Mada V'Yadeya, and the question is long. Tshuva. So what I love
about this tshuva is
that it starts with such geschmacke stories. Such geschmacke stories.
this was asked to the Frieden Rebbe?
Yeah.
And the Rebbe's answering.
No.
This
This, yeah. So, so the stories are so geschmack. So geschmack. The truth is, a lot of the letters, long letters, geschmack letters in the Friedrich Rebbe, a lot of them are to the Rebbe. The Rebbe was in Berlin and in France. He used to write letters to his father-in-law asking questions. A lot of the very juicy letters are taka to the Rebbe. It's tshuva, the answer. Sefer HaTanya, Sefer HaTorah Shebeksav, B'Torah Chassidus Chabad. Every word is meduik b'chosa v'yeter. The Rabbeim, Zakronim Levrochen, the Chassidim, the Ziknei Chassidim, every generation used to, their relationship of Tanya was Bahadras Kodesh, like it was mamish to a Sefer HaChumash. Like it was mamish to a Sefer HaChumash. In my Rishimas, here and there, I have a few stories, Mesiachas to the Sefer HaTanya, and I will quote here Bekitzer Nimritz. Bekitzer Nimritz, I mean, I used the Riemann paper of this. Bekitzer Nimritz. Hachotzid Reb Hanoich Hendel said from Tzvi, which was, his name was Hirschel de Vranemer, Hirschel Bren. Why was his name Reb Hirschel Bren? The story in the bottom, his father got Nebuchadnezzar, his children used to die. And the Alter Rebbe came to Samaragon, and he called the child. He put his holy hand on the head of the child, and he said, "Avarime Ingel." The kids used to die from Krirus, and the Alter Rebbe said, "What's that? Cold." So the Alter Rebbe said, "Avarime Ingel," but the opposite. In other words, not Chas v'Shalom that he's cold, he's very hot. And from then on, he was, and they used to call him Hirschel de Bren.
The child or the father?
Then the child. So when he grew up, they called him Hirschel Bren. So Hirschel Bren told the story from Rabbi Yaakov. Rabbi Yaakov said that the Alter Rebbe, he was a Talmud Alter Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe used to go on the day of Yutas Kislev, and he used to daven for the Yom Shachris Mancha Ma'ariv. Why? Because it was the Yom Elul of his Rebbe, the Maggid of Mezrich. Usually after Ma'ariv, he would say some Torah. In the year Tov Kuf Nun Zayin, the Alter Rebbe davened as every year in front of the Yom. Why? Because B'nai Talmidei, he was considered himself Talmidei B'nai, like a son of the Maggid of Mezrich. In the summer, right before that Yortzeit, the summer of Tov Kuf Nun Vav, there was two chassidim that came back from a special travel that they did for the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe sent them to consult with the Talmidei HaMaggid, Rabbi Yehuda Leib HaKoim and Rabbi Shulam Zusa of Hanipoli, if he should publish the Tanya. They came back with the affirmative answer, and the Alter Rebbe told the printers in Slavita that he agrees to print it, but the condition was that it must be printed no later than the year Kislev, from the month Kislev, Tov Kuf Nun Zayin the following year, and be brought straight to Liozna. Turn the page. This, when Chassidim found out that Tanya is being printed, it was an unbelievable simcha. However, when half of Cheshvan went through and there was no word from Slavita, So they realized that the Chassidim will not be able to learn in the Tanya like the Alter Rebbe wanted on the Yom Elula of the Maggid of Mezrich Yutas Kislev. The Alter Rebbe had unbelievable tsar from that. And you could see on his face an unbelievable tsar. That year, the Yom Elula, which was on a Monday, Parshas Vayeshev, when it came to Kriyas HaTorah, the Alter Rebbe read the Torah. And so the third Aliyah, he went up himself, and the Chassid, Rabbi Yaakov, said that it was a bahola for us to hear the way he read the last pasuk. Vayisaper la'oviv vayikanu vayechav ve'oviv shomer es hadover. There was obviously, the Alter Rebbe was thinking about something, that there is some type of jealousy from somewhere to someone. Ve'oviv shomer es hadover. The Alter Rebbe was very concerned about this.
Just like Yaakov Avinu.
Yep. And when he said these, he had an unbelievable krechts. It was Anocha Amuka. And when he finished the bracha, his voice was shaking. And the Kaddish after Kriyas Torah, he said with unbelievable dveikus. And then he leaned with an unbelievable dveikus on the Kriya, on the Shulchan HaKriya. When it was the second day of Hanukkah that year, that someone, the poached, the guy from the UPS came running from Slavita, and he brought 200 books of Tanya. They just came out from the print, and they came. The news was that it was finally printed. That came out of the binder's house, of the printer's house, on Chav Kislev, and they showed the Sefer Alter Rebbe. He looked for a long time, and then he said, Rabbis machshavas balavish. I wanted the Sefer to be finished in the beginning of Kislev, and the Yom Elul my Rebbe, they should learn in the Sefer. Not just Hashem Yitokum. The Sefer was printed on the 20th of the month, and he said Chav Kislev, Chav Kislev, Chav Kislev, and he finally said Kol David Rachmana Latav Ovid. So obviously the Talmidim understood that something is going on. Why was the Alter Rebbe? What do you care if it was printed? Yutas Kislev, Chav Kislev. What was going on over here? Turn the page.
This is post him sitting in prison.
Huh?
This is post him.
Yeah. This is obviously they realized later that the Alter Rebbe had machshava about this.
What happened with the Maggid in that day?
Really, Yutas Kislev was the Maggid's yahrzeit. So the Alter Rebbe wanted. Right. The Alter Rebbe wanted that when the Tanya should be printed, and on the day of Yutas Kislev, they should already be learning from the Tanya. So, because it was printed one day later, Alter Rebbe seemed to have unbelievable agmas nefesh, and he said, "Chav Kislev, Chav Kislev."
Maggid was the Rebbe's,
the Rabbi of the Alter Rebbe, and
Rebbe, and he got out of prison the same day that the Maggid was
yahrzeit. Yes, yes.
Not so pushy this day.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Siddim said that on the.
How was Russians passed away? Oh, the Maggid called the Tavera. This is how there something.
None of us said Rabbi Yaakov from Smelian, even the children of the Alter Rebbe understood what was the big tzar of the Alter Rebbe that the Tanya came out a little later. Who cares? The beginning of Cheshvan Tovkuf Nun Ches, the following year, says the Chassid Rabbi Yaakov Smelian, it was my job to go collect the money that the Alter Rebbe would always send annually for the kollel of to support the Eden, the Talmidei Baal Shem Tov, that went up to live in Eretz HaKodesh Tebana B'Tekonim. The Alter Rebbe told me that I should ask the old Chassidim where they live that they should spend time in Asmoda learning the Sefer HaTanya. And on that year, Shabbos Kodesh Vayeshev, which is going to be Chav Kislev, they should learn the first two prakim. In other words, and they should learn the Perek Aleph of Chelik Aleph and Perek Aleph of Chelik Beis. It was appealed to us, like what was so important. Chav Kislev at that time was not a date. Yutes Kislev was a date,
Right.
Because that was the day of the yahrzeit of the Heilige Maggid of Mezrich. But Chav Kislev was a meaningless day at that time. So it was appealed to them. However, the following year, Tovkuf Nun Tes, when the Alter Rebbe went out of jail, on Yutas Kislev, and by Betos, he went into the house of the Besnagid, and many hours later, when it was already Chav Kislev, he went out of the house of that house. Well, we remembered, now we understood why the Alter Rebbe had this whole thing about Chav Kislev. Originally, when it was printed, he said, Chav Kislev, and then he asked next year that they should learn Tanya Chav Kislev. The Fedish we heard from the son of the Alter Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe, that he said the 2 years that the Chayis of Torah and Avodas Hashem, that the Sefer HaTanya added to the Chassidim, saved him from Rachmana litzlan, the opposite of life. And the tens of thousands of angels that were created from every ois and every word and Lekutei Amorim were Melitza Yosha for him. My uncle, Reb Zalman Aram, my uncle is the Frierdiker Rebbe, had an uncle, his name was Reb Zalman Aram. We spoke about it many times. The Rebbe Rashab had an older brother, Zalman Aharon, who insisted the younger brother become the Rebbe. And the Beis Harab, he was very, very precious. They always, would go to him. He was like the older brother. So the Frierdiker Rebbe says, my uncle, Reb Zalman Aharon, used to say that he heard from Reb Nochem, the grandson of the Alter Rebbe, the son of the Mikveh Rebbe, the following. 20 years, the Alter Rebbe wrote the Sefer Atanya. He was very careful with every word. It was every chosav v'yeter was important to him, until he gave permission that it should be allowed for people to make copies. At that time, it was expensive to print, so they would just give out the sefer that people could copy. But when people started to copy, so there was hatokis that were wrong, and Alter Rebbe was thinking that's going to be a big problem. Some were intentional, not intentional. There were mistakes in the Tanya, and especially with things of Amunah, one word could make a huge difference. The Alter Rebbe turned the page, sent special shluchim to the tzaddikim, the Yehuda Leil Bakoyim and the Zusha of Anapole, to consult about if they should print the Tanya.
They were copying by hand.
Yeah. And now the Alter Rebbe asked in the letter to the printers of Slavita that they should be very careful. They shouldn't even miss a chosav v'yeter, a yud or a vav, missing in a word. He was concerned that every word, the way he wrote it, should be printed.
This is the
But printed,
This is the original source of that.
This is the original Sazav, yeah. They just fixed it up a drop. They made it clean, yeah.
You mean print, but didn't they have a printing press, or you're talking about by hand?
By hand.
No, originally they were writing the Tanya by hand.
Printing press. That was in the 1400s.
But
Right.
They didn't have access.
Continue.
To printing.
The Chassid Reb Shmuel told the story of Rabbi Isaac Homler that when it was known that the Alter Rebbe went out of jail and he's going home, so the Chassidim went to greet him. They came to Liozna. Hundreds of Chassidim came from far and wide. So the Alter Rebbe's son came to the Farbrengen, and he said that when the Sefer Tanya was published, the Samach Mem came in heaven and he made a kitrug against the Sefer Tanya. The Alter Rebbe accepted upon himself whatever would happen, even if it's Yisur Mitzvah Rachman al-Islam. However, he asked the Rachamim in heaven that a Sefer should be neskabel by Klal Yisrael, and that through that there should be Tesera B'Hadeya B'Asogas Elokus B'Yiras Shamayim. For 2 years, the Samach Men couldn't stop being Mekatrik. That's what the Mittler Rebbe said. What was the Kitrug? Because the Alter Rebbe was Metaken and Mesader, the Oifen Avodah that the Baal Shem Tov wanted, that every person should be able to reach the Oifen Avodah of the Baal Shem Tov. First day of Rosh Hashanah, but Kiyas of that year, there was a Eis Tzora, the Alter Rebbe and the Chassidim were in a big sakona. There was a Soidus of Rachim, and the Bezdin Shalmaila said that there'll be Sisure Misa on the Alter Rebbe. We saw that the Alter Rebbe actually suffered for 53 days, Yisure Mavis, Yom Lepeirik. However, because of this Mesiris Nefesh, Torah Chassidus turned the page, they fask in the Bezdin Shalmaila that when it comes to Torah, Yerushalayim Midas Toivis, all those that are connected to the Alter Rebbe, Yodam Til Al Yoina, there's a concept in Halacha we're learning now also, the Moichan Alakeach, who's Yoda Al Yoina, who's Yoda Tachtoina. So the Mekusharim of the Alter Rebbe that are learning his Torah and are going in the ways of the Tanya, that when it comes to a thing of Torah, Yerushalayim and this Torah, but they're going to have the upper hand.
What was the end of the 53 days? Which day was it?
Yutzis Kislev.
But how do you cheshbon from Rosh Hashanah? It doesn't come out.
He wasn't arrested on Rosh Hashanah.
No, when was the kid?
The Kitter was on Rosh Hashanah. He was arrested after Sukkot.
Oh. I know backwards what it is.
The Chassid of David Zev used to tell a story from the Hillel Paritcher. Hillel Paritcher was an unbelievable posek. He was a tzaddik, and we spoke about him many times. That Tzemach Tzedek said he has 2.5 Hasidim. Hillel Paritcher was a half a Chassid. What was the other half? He said Rebbe. Because he was a Rabbi. Tzemach Tzedek in his time, that was the highest point of Chabad Chassidus in the days of Tzemach Tzedek. It said that he had hundreds of thousands of Chassidim. And what happened was after 1880 with the pogroms, that there were roughly 1 million Jews that emigrated, that came out of Russia. So among them were a lot of Pashtin that were today you have all over America Tzemach Tzedek shuls are conservative temples. But at that time, the Alter Rebbe wanted, the Tzemach Tzedek wanted that Reb Hillel, he couldn't. He told Reb Hillel, "I'll teach you the secret of how to give brachos and how to get kvitla." And he used to travel around and he used to say Chassidus. He used to say his own Maimonim. There's a Pelach Hariman, which is considered very choshev sefer Chabad Chassidus, that was Maimonim from Reb Hillel. Reb Hillel's Maimonim. And he was also a poisek, as I mentioned many times, Kiyadua, that the Beis Halevi used to consult with him. So Reb Hillel Paritcher was a devout chassid of the Tzemach Tzedek, and he had a Rebbe. His Rebbe was Reb Zalman Zezmer, who was a chassid of the Alter Rebbe. So he said, when I was young, so my Rebbe told me. So Reb Hillel is saying from his Rebbe. When I was young, said Reb Zalman, I learned in the city of Polotsk. Polotsk was a very Yiddish shtot in Russia. And today it's nothing. But it was like, back then, Polotsk was, Isaiah used to tell the stories about Polotsk. He was young, they learned in the yeshiva in Polotsk. It was a Yiddish shtot. So Reb Zalman learned in Polotsk. I don't know if it's white Russia, probably. Polotsk is probably Belarus or somewhere there between Belarus and Litva. So he learned by Agoin that Belimelech Shol. Before the Reb Zalman said, before my Rebbe passed away, 4 years before he passed away, and I was a young student, he told me that the truth is that he had been by the Baal Shem Tov and by the Maggid. And he was b'chavrusa chada with the hidden tzaddikim that were connected to Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid. And he started to teach me, says Reb Zalman, the Darkei Hashem Yisborach according to Torah Baal Shem Tov. And near Tav Kuf Mem Gimel, my Rebbe passed away. Before he passed away, he told me I should go to Yochanon to the Alter Rebbe. The following year, I went to the Alter Rebbe and I was accepted in the Cheder Shlishi. It was top Cheder, middle Cheder, lowest Cheder. There's a sikh of the Friedrich Rebbe. He said that the two brothers used to test you. Top Cheder, to get into the top Cheder, you have to be tested on Shas, Bavli, Yerushalmi. That was a. So you need to know Shas, Bavli, Yerushalmi, and then a whole list of other svarim that you have to be clearing. So I guess he didn't pass the test for Cheder Aleph. He was a Cheder Agim. Anyway. But from time to time, I used to see my Rebbe in the dream, and he used to tell me Divrei Torah and give me instructions in the ways in Avodas Hashem. When the Tanya was published at night, my Rebbe came to me in my dream, and he said, "You should know the Sefer Tanya from your Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe, is mechuven in the Prokim for the Parshas HaTorah, just like Parsha Bereishis, Parsha Klolos. The Aktama Sefer Tanya is like Keneged Sefer Bereishis. Every Perek is Keneged one." A parsha in the Torah. From then on, I had a minhag to learn every week Perek and Tanya. Just like every week we learn the parsha, the Chumash. Every week I learn a Perek in the Tanya. Turn the page. The Alter Rebbe came out of its danger, so it became popular among Chassidim to learn Tanya like Chumash. Just like you learn a parsha a week, you learn a Perek a week, as you'll see soon. That's the background of the idea of Hitas, Chumash Tilim Tanya, finishing in the cycle of the year. Yitzchak Isaac of Vitebsk, also very choshev chosid. He was a poisek, and Yitzchak Isaac of Vitebsk, Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Epstein, who was the uncle of the Aruch HaShulchan, very choshev v'oinim the poiskim. He was a chosid, the Alter Rebbe, and the Mittler Rebbe, and the Tzemach Tzedek. He told the story to the son of the Tzemach Tzedek, Rebbe Marash, that the first Chag HaGeula in Yutes Kislev Tovkov Samach, the first full year, there was a Chassidim, had a Farbrengen, and there was a big simcha. All of a sudden, the grandson of the Alter Rebbe, your father, the Tzemach Tzedek, came into the Farbrengen, and he gave a klap from Tish. And he said, "Oh, Mata Reis," and he said, "It's Simchas Torah." So he started to give the kibud of every person to say another pasuk Ata Reis. Then he took the Tanya and he announced in the Nusach of Simchas Torah is Memachabed, and he said Pailoni Memploni with the first Sefer Torah. He gave him a Tanya, and they danced the whole night. The end was when the Alter Rebbe found out about it. Not only was he not upset, he was very happy. He called his grandson. He put his holy hand on his head, and he gave him a bracha that he'll be Megala the Torah Shabbat of Torah Chassidus Chabad.
How old was he?
I don't know.
What do you think?
Look in the Yom Yom, and you don't have to think. You look at the dates of the birth and look the math from there to Tov Kuf Samach. The Rebdat's Chain. Wow, the Seshima is all who's who in Chabad history. The Rebdat's Chain was also very choshev chosed. He was a poisek, and he was the Rav in the city of Chernigiv. Again, to all these palots, Chernigiv, to us it all sounds like Mickey Mouse names. But Chernigiv was a very, very choshev city. It was a year of Ein Yisrael. The Radatz Chain was the Rav in the city of Chernigiv.
That's true.
So he told the story from his father, the Peretz. The Peretz heard from the Mittler Rebbe. Mit der Tanya, der Tate, aufgeöffnet an einem Hechel und Mesifte der Rekia for the Poshta Chassidim, was haben gesagt, die Werte von Neusis von Tanya. With the Tanya, there was new gates opened. By even Chassidim that don't have unbelievable depth, they're Poshet. But just saying the words of Tanya is Bazen is Gala geworden, the Eisen Sheben Shoma in Kiyama Mitzvah, so Mekol Shkem Bade Bali Yediyah Vasog. That just by saying the words of Tanya, the Eisen of the Neshama became strong by them. Holsh came those that understood the Tanya is even more. Turn the page. Rabbi Person, who was a Chossid,
11 years old.
11 years old. Thank you very much.
According to Google.
Yeah. Okay. So it makes sense. He was like, it was like a shtick. You think he was 11-year-old, but the point that's okay. Shkoyach. Chossid Rabbi Person told the story from Zalman Valenkin that there were a few Chassidim that went in the Shlichus. Among the Chassidim was Reb Moshe Yitzchak. It was an unusual thing. A Yid, Reb Yitzchak Moshe from Romania. Like back then, to go from Romania to Lyozna is like going from here to the moon and back. So, but Lepoil, he was a Yid, he was Talmid Chacham. He used to travel months and months and months to go all the way from Yassing, Romania, go to the Alter Rebbe and come back, and he was the Chazak Tzidus on the way in every town. So the Alter Rebbe sent the delegation of Chassidim, he was among them, to Rebbe Zusha Avanapoli to consult about the Tanya, and also to Rebbe Yehuda Leib HaKohen. Rebbe Yehuda Leib HaKohen said these words: Sefer HaTanya K'toris L'chol HaMagifas Aruchnis L'ikfas HaMashiach. That Nikas of Mashiach is going to be a spiritual Magefa, and just like by Aaron HaKohen, the way he was able to stop the Magefa was with K'toris, as the Torah tells us the story. Vayamad ben Achaim ben Amesim, when the Sefer HaTanya is going to be that K'toris that will save the Jews from the Magefa Ruchnius of that time. And Zusha Avanapolo said, with the Sefer HaTanya, the Yidden will go to the Kras Mashiach Tzidkenu. Both wrote their Askamas and Sefer Tanya, and they wrote it in Pashas Tove. Why? Number one, through a deep learning in Tanya, you come to Voyo al Oretz. What does it mean to Voyo al Oretz? Beruchnis. To the Gilui Rotzen. Now, Baal Shem Tov said Oretz is the Rotzen and Merutza. To get to the Rotzen Atzim and the Neshama through Dark Avoid and Sefer Tanya, you can also turn the Klol itself into the Bracha. The Yehuda Leib HaKohen wrote that the Maskam is in the year Tov Kuf Nun Vav, which is Rosh Hashanah, Tanya, K'toiris, Neshama, Veruach. And Reb Zusha wrote Neshas Peduseinu, which is that through this Yidden will go out with Mashiach Tzidkenu. The next story that the Tzemach Tzedek had a son, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, said the following story. When I was young, said that Tzemach Tzedek, I wanted to make Nekudis in the Sefer Tanya and to split every Perek into Psukim. That night I had a dream. Turn the page. I was learning Hilchas Stam. I had a Shaila in Sefer Torah that was written kosher, but there was Nekudis and there were Psukim. I had a big shackle of Ataya, and I decided the Sefer Torah is kosher. And I woke up. I got the Remes. The Remes was not to, not to do it. That day,
He said it's kosher.
he said it's kosher. In fact, Ashai straight.
That's not in the drink.
No. That's a shot. Kosher. No, that's a shot. In other words, he realized that Sadav Zan Ashakla Ataya means that Lachatchila shouldn't have been. It wasn't that it was necessary to have a Shakla Ataya. He realized it wasn't. Yeah, it's kosher.
No, but I can translate it like you said, maybe that.
No. We read the next paragraph. Read the next paragraph. That day, when I came to visit my grandfather, the Alter Rebbe, as I stepped over the threshold, the Alter Rebbe turned to me and said, "The Sefer Tanya that has Nekudis." I'm sorry, Sefer Torah, which has Nekudis and was split to Psukim as possible. Because the whole Torah is Shmos Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu that have special tzirufim. If you want, you can learn your pshat, the emesis. You could learn that he thought that the emesis it's positive, and then the Alter Rebbe said it's a negative.
So the halach is we're tired and it's special.
Why? Because the Torah is Shmos Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they have special tzirufim, and therefore you ruin the tzirufim. By the way, is the story that Reb Zalman Zezman just mentioned. Reb Zalman Zezman that he used to make believe that he's a traveling maggid. Because, they didn't have, the entertainment those days in the shtetl was, they come in a magid, and if it was a choshev magid, it was the fahet, he'd go to the Beis Medrash HaGodol, give a drosh, everyone come in the drosh. And with the fahet, the Reb Chaim Volozhin, he came to Volozhin, and the Reb Chaim said he's a moiridik Talmid Chacham. Beis Medrash HaGodol, they announced that he's going to darshan an hour before Mincha. He came an hour before Mincha, he started the drush, like the Magidim say, quickly slipped into Chassidus. When he had, he said that Yishlach Yaakov Malachim Alaysa said the whole thing of Chassidus, the whole thing of Yidus in this world about this Haberurim, and Yaakov is Vayishlach takes out the Netzutz Kedusha and he sends it to Esav to the Eibishter. Why did he say that? Did you want to rattle them? What's up shot in the story? Whenever I wonder. But he didn't give us what's going to be. He came down the beam like Marcus there. But they were very careful that he shouldn't go out blood because it's a Shabbos and there's a Bichavola. So the Chaim Volozhin came and he asked what's going on. They said, "Don't worry, Rabbi, we're very careful that it shouldn't be make Chabola, but he has to get kids. He has to get Marcus because his Mavaza the Rebbeinu Shalom." Reb Chaim asked him, "What's going on?" So he said, "It's a Maimah Chazal." He said, "Chazal, you thinking?" He said, "No, Shana Chazal." He said, "It's befeidish." He said, "What do you think?" Where's it? He said, "What do you mean? It's a befeidish. It says, Kol HaTorah Kula Shmoisav Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu." That's the story of Zalman Zezman. One of the stories, turn the next page, right? That because, and we're going to have to take a break from the story, just turn one more page. Let's turn one more page. Page Kuf Chav Kes. Amur Mikola Amur, and the other stories we'll do another time. Sefer Atanya, Torah Shabbat and Torah Sachsidus. The Alter Rebbe wrote in 20 years. It was Medaik B'Chosav Yeter. You learn it, it's like learning Chumash, that everyone can learn. In the one hand, no one understands the full depth, but the Kedushas of the Oasis is Ma'ir Deisis from Neshama. Fila Posh Yid. It opens for him a Heichel Chodesh Masifta Derekia. The Samach Mem was Mekat against the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe was Moise Nefesh. He accepted the Yisurim. There's a Mesamas Betfila with Tachronim, the Stefish and his Kabul, and Tesraba Das Masagas Al-Kuz Vira Shemaim. Gedama Chelokishin, Mochum Al-Pasha Torah, which used to have Marosov, Yisurim Mavis, Yem Lepedik. Siddim Marishanim used to read it every week, just like you do the Pasha Shavua. Story with the Tzemach Tzedek, with the Akofis, the Nefudis.
On that, the Paragal was started.
It's Noach.
Shana or Yotes Kislev?
I don't know.
When they read it once.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the Alter Rebbe writes in Perek Beis, Nishmas kol ish Yisrael nimshichem emashafta v'chmas yizbarach. V'yachakem v'leb faf mi'idiyah, avol v'chmas ya'afat. V'mashkos of Rambam, hu amad v'hu yedeya. Dov is the aim, v'chayr l'sotab l'avina al-burya, k'deksiv ha'chekel ha'chatimtza, ksiv loy machshavayse machshavaysecha. Erish Rabbeinu oim mekan dalad nyon. The Alter Rebbe says here four things. Number one, the Shmoseh Shekolach Vechem Yisrael Nimshechem Machshavta Chachmas Yisbarach. Number two, Chachmas Yisbarach Eloi B'Chacham Yediyah. If you want to know what that means, come to the Likutei Torah shir last week, the week before that, and the week before that. Then number three, Shu Yisbarach Chachmas Echad. Number four, Achduzu Ein Bechel Sodom Lavina Aburi. These four things, it's a little bit of a tell to me. You would think that the second, the third thing is Hainu Hach. But the emes is, if you learn the Maimer, it's not Hainu Hach. And the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe makes it sound the Hainu Hach. The Rebbe says, Nishmas Kolish Yisrael Nimshechem Machshavta Chachmasei V'Yuchakem V'Loi B'Chacham Yediyah Elo Hu V'Chachmas Echad. Alter Rebbe makes it sound as one thing. Oh, but for us, it's really two separate things. One is has to do with Kabbalah, and one is Api Chakira, which is one is from the Arizal, and one is from the Rambam. Arben Yonim Eilo, Shnei Yonim Arishonim, Malas Makram Neshama V'Ev Chabas in Spoidem, the Sifri HaKabbalah, Shnei Yonim Achrenim, Ichud Atzmusa V'Chachmas, V'Heder Yachel Sodom Lovin Zavazeh, Yisoidem Berambam, V'Haloch Yud Perik Beis, Melchus Yisoid HaTorah. If Perik Revim, if I quite Kedushas Rabbeinu, Maila Shloisha Lavusha, Anefesh Alakis, Machshav Dibur Mais, and Torah Mitzvahs, Odu de Maskona, Shagadola Malas Lavusha Maila, Malas Nefesh, Ruch Neshama Atzma, the Raisa, Hich Chachmos, Vertzanish Kedush Borach, and Kedush Borach, Chachmos, Kulachad, Hu Yedei Vomada, After Kedush Borach, and Soif, Chemer Retzana, Chachmos, Kiksiv, and Chekel, Tanosa, but Simson Kedush Borach, Retzana, Chachmos, but the Yag Mitzvahs, Kedei Shekol Neshama, Tuchel Asigim Bedaita. So, essentially, as we'll say in a minute, when Perek Beis, the Alter Rebbe is talking about the Maila of the Neshama. In Perek Dalet, the Alter Rebbe is talking about the Maila of Torah Mitzvahs, and that the Torah Mitzvahs are the Levusha Neshama. Usually, who's more important, me or my shirt? Me. But when the Neshama, no, the Levusha Neshama, which is Torah Mitzvahs, are higher than the Neshama itself. Haresh Neshama, Rabbeinu Emekan, Hey Inyonim. Shenefesh Elokis Yesh Lagim Lavushim. Number two, Lavushim Torah Mitzvahs. Number three, Mailas Lavushim on Neshama. Number four, Tzimtzum Kadosh Baruch Hu L'Tzayin Masa V'Ladesh Tuchel Neshama L'Asigin. Number five, Asogi B'Daita Shel Neshama. Hine Shnei Ma'amorim Eilu Shel Hoyt Kvei Kedushas Rabbeinu Im Shnei Inyonim Shayin. The Perek Beis Mavar Mailas HaNeshama, and the Perek Dalet Mavar Mailas HaTorah. It's a different thing. Here we're talking about Milas and Neshama, and here we're talking about Milas and Torah. Talking about two different things. Zoyse Medes, turn the page. The Neshama v'Torah Shnei Mishroshos Batzmus is boring. Shnei Mekorim Chachma Atzmus. Chachma Zul Machedes Batzmus. Ichud Gomer Uvach Chachmas. On the one hand, the common denominator, Torah and the Neshama, they're both Atzmus. And both Chachmas are Atzmus. And when you say Chochmas Atzmus, it's not like me. If you say, so I came up with an unbelievable invention. So me and my invention is gewaltig. But when you were thinking about my invention, I'm not in your head. My invention is in your head. But the Eibishter says it's nicht azoi. Kadosh Baruch Hu v'chachmas yechad. So when he learns Torah and he's Mesach the Eibishter's Chochma, he and the Eibishter is one. Okay? The Neshama yichud hu dehav hu amad hu yedeh, but Torah yichud hu yedeh hu amad. Now we'll understand why it's the other way around. Why over here it says Hu Yedeh Hu Amadu Hu Amadu Hu Yedeh. It's Kul Achad. So what's the difference in the lashon? Before we read any further, I just want to read the Rambam. It's important to hear the lashon of the Rambam. So the lashon of the Rambam here is like this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makir mitosav yedei oisa kamo shehi. Ve'en yedei b'dei shechutz memene kamo shanu yodim. Shein ono v'daitenu echet. Aval al boiris Baruch Hu v'daite v'chai v'echel mekol tzad v'pina v'chol derech yichud. At the Eibishter, there's absolute achdus. There isn't like there's a few screws that a human being, there's a couple of screws. There's the nuts, the bolts, there's the bones. We're not talking about the physical part of the body, but spiritual makeup of the person, right? Shilmoli hoye chai b'chai v'yedei b'das chutz mimeno hoye shem alakus harbe chmon alatzlan hu b'daite v'einer kol dover ken ala echel mikol tzad mikol pina v'chol deva yichud nimtza te'oimer hu ha'yodeya hu ha'yodua v'hu ha'deya atzma. Let me read it again.
The lotion is different.
Nimtza te'oimer hu hayoidea, hu hayedua, hu hadea atzma, hakalech. V'dover hazeh in koich bepel omre v'leshome v'lakir al muriyoi. A person can't understand it. This is something a person can never understand. However, but it's critical that a person knows it because that's part of Amun. I mean, the Rambam thinks that this is so important that this makes it into halacha sefer in Yesod Torah in the first two prokim in Yesod Torah. Okay.
So it's not going to go on the salons.
Ine kol yediyas kol yediyas dover eze shiyah behecher shiyah ba gimel inyon hadover ba'atzmi meichel hadover ahu gilui hadover. Everything has three parts to it. There's the thing, the vessel that holds this thing, and then the manifestation of this thing. So if you have, there is as we're going to say, a dvar sichli. There's a dvar sichli. So there is the seichel, there's the person, and then there is the applying the seichel. So it's a mathematical equation. This mathematical equation makes this machine work. Every machine works today on a mathematical equation. So that's the gilui of Hadover Ahu. That there's Advar Sichli, which you see the gilui Hadover Ahu, the way it comes out in this mechanism. On this thing. Let's skip to Oischav Gimel, turn the page. Bir Davazeh Yuvim Bekoyach HaSeichel. Hine Haskola Hu Amada. V'odem ha'maskol hu ha'yodea, v'hamuskol hu ha'yedua. Read it again. What does it? Haskola hi imada, v'odem ha'maskol hu ha'yodea, v'hamuskol hu ha'yedua. Haskola v'hamuskol v'hamuskol v'yosim kulam ke'echad tunim seichel echad, m'kol mokum hem gimel muhusim l'dolim zamezeh. Can't take a scalpel and separate the three things. But still, they're really three totally different things. Yosem gimel muhusim nedalim im kol zeh hine echad mechayev machirich hazolos yosem mechayev machirich hazolos kol makom nedalim bechiyuvim shein doiv bechiyuv shel haskola mechayeves as hamaskel v'machreches hamuskel v'chiyuv shel hamaskel hamachayeves haskola v'muskel v'chiyuv shel hamuskel hamachayeves haskola v'hamaskel.
You get from blood.
I get a little fablonja, huh? That's why I told you it's really geschmack to start with the stories. Because when you start the thing, you think, oh wow, it's such a geschmack Rishima, and it's so easy. Friedrich Rebbe's Toitus, it's a piece of cake, you read it at night when you're in bed. You think that way, right? You might think that way when you start the Rishima. When you get to the end of the Rishima, you know why he warmed you up so much. He wanted, you should understand, that you're going to say, the Alter Rebbe once wrote, He wrote once Amadu Yudeh, the other one Yudeh Amadu. Yishikoyach doesn't mean anything. That's what the Alter Rebbe gives. That's what the Friedrich Rebbe gives us. Gom Kedoma. The Alter Rebbe was a daik and nifla, and that Beruchni is that the union of the Sefer Tanya is like Sefer Torah Shebeksav Torah Chassidus. So there's no chosav and no lo yes. And a Poshet Shebekshut reads the words and he doesn't understand it. Still, it opens up the Eis and Shabbat Shama. However, if a person puts in the effort to understand the depth of the Tanya, that gives him an extra koyach in the avodas Hashem, in Yiras Shamayim, and understanding the Eibishter. Essentially, what he's saying is that there's three things, but in the combination of what's starting, like I need to figure out how to make a cash register because the people in my shop are stealing money. So I'm thinking and thinking and thinking. And so it starts with the need for a machine, and then there's me, and then there's the math, or it's the other way around. And there's an afkamina what started. But usually these three things, Mada, Yodeya, and Yodua, are connected. All three are very much connected. Next piece. The person comes up with a new invention. Or whatever invention it is. The
What's Hasaka?
Huh?
Hasaka? What's it?
Yeah, that he makes a machine that can grind zavonim and it has oil and a socket. Yeah, and it grinds up the avonim. He makes a machine that grinds avonim.
What's the part of Hasaka mean?
It's gemacht from fire and gemacht from Holz.
So it's Holz?
Yeah. איך אתה מסיק את התנור?
Hasaka.
צריך להסיק את זה.
Okay, got it.
That's a little bit.
like המסקונה.
That's a little bit schnell.
Exactly. So, הרי יש כאן גימול מהוסים לבדולם. האסכולה שעמד השכלי, האדם היודע האסכולה, והמושכל שהמכוינה תוילדס האסכולה והמסק. Important to understand. We're not talking about the cash register right now. We're not talking about the machine that's grinding the stones or grinding the wheat. We're talking about the same mathematics that sometimes helps you put together a computer, helps you make this machine, that machine, the other machine, same mathematical equations. You're just applying it to solve a problem here, solve a problem there, and solve a problem elsewhere. Huh? So there is seichel, there's the person, and then there is the person applying the seichel to something.
No,
That's the three things that the Rambam is talking about when he says yoideya. These are the three things, right? The lashon that Rambam is hu hayoideya, hu hayodua, hu hadeya. They're connected really. Hier באסכולה מבrekes בפייך המסקל, ההפך האסכולה מחרקת המוסקל. ואין אדם חייב המסקל שמחי בידי גיס מויכס גילה האסכולה לא יעשה ערכם שמחליך המוסקל, אז המוסקל לא הוטב פעולוס. So it really means that the shaila is like what came first? Like the chicken and the egg. Usually we say it makes no difference, but over here it does make a difference. Is it like, the guys are stealing in my shop and I'm trying to figure out how to make a machine into that they're not going to steal the money and I come up with the cash register, or
to make a difference.
Why does it make?
Yeah,
where? Because it's kumta. There is, but he's not saying. He's saying this could be a difference with how you started. So shemera shekol echem ashloisha muhusim alolam upoil v'nifel v'kol echem dem kolosov ispalusoi v'lefimailas muhusa aprotem yuchan elav v'lavad v'limze kol echem an mugbel mugder b'agderot v'olam hine kol echem mishar lamodem ashu Maskola, maskola, muskol. Shem shu b'seichel ma'isa shu adraga yoysa achrena b'seichel. Kumoiken v'shara seichel mashagam heima v'schalkem u'gimel muhusim. Askola, maskola, muskol. V'chenu gam b'rum kol ha'mailos l'seichel chokhmas ha'toyre v'chokhmas ha'lakus. As you asked before, if it means only an atoisus. He's like everything. It can start from mathematics to a cash register, and from atoisus and a rajba, and the lakut ha'toyre and the Torah. He's just saying there's always maskil, and there's always a muskel, and always there's haskol. Kol zeh b'seichel nivroim shebalik bulu mida. In a seichel nivcha and a mischalik l'shlosh b'chinas amurim. Ha-maskol ha-maskel ha-muskel shu madi yodei v'yudua. Aval atzmus is borach v'kol yochel. In a koil l'kol yachel bli havdol klal. Zeh mashkosav Rambam shu ha-yodei v'amada v'yodei atzma. Because that in Rambam tofas shlosh l'shoynes elo yodei yodua v'deya. Hoyd kveit kedushes Rabbeinu mefarish toichel inyan hadeya atzma b'toyer mada. So remember it's who amada, who yedei or yedei amada. But the third thing that the Rambam said, which is that who are yedei, who are yedu, who are hadeya atzma, and instead of saying a complicated word, hadeya atzma, the Alter Rebbe calls it mada. Mada, but that's what the Rambam is calling hadeya atzma. Mada v'yadeya v'yadu him yoysim husum nevdolim mashkolachem am yesh leize inyam asher Yehud Yisrael al zelosei in a kol zein agam b'chlod shishum atzim seder v'adroge b'malosam atzim is b'gdima v'yichur v'sidrem l'mayla l'mato. Mada yodeya yudua starts with Mada v'seichel, mathematical equation, the man who understands it and digests it, and Yudua, he applied it to the cash register machine. Or it's melamata lamayla. There is Yudua Yudea Mada. Hine acher agdama zu Yuven. Turn the page. Shetoyer Mada. Hu askol atzma. Kamo shehi muhusa atzmi. She'enken lamayla men. V'loshna Rambam. She'en lamayla men. V'loshna Rambam hi adea atzmi. Mada is is the highest. That's the Deya Atzma, like the Rambam says, the Etza. Yoidea hu adam asich limasages hamada in kula mitzasa. There is a man who chaps a little bit of the mada or the whole mada. The Yoidea hu atetzah is bepoil dover. He could translate it into something. Mamoshes dik in beregesh ispaylo sichlo imad or midash balev or pula mamoshes above amada miyosher edei imtzois yedei. I want to say it's a little bit of what I think is the third nakuda. He's saying, what's an afkamina? Every Rosh Yeshiva that asks Habachakira is the woman in Mekudeshes through that she gets the money, or she gets the money through that from Kadeshes. Ishikoyach, what's an afkamina? You say one way or the other way. Am I sitting on the chair? The chair's on the. If you can't tell me an afkamina, your lumdus is not a lumdus. That's the third level. There is the Mada, there is the Yodeya.
That's the highest or
Lowest. And then there's applying it that it's the cash register.
Your feelings in your heart, for example, is the same thing as the machine in the.
Yeah, yes. Varenu Ramba maske kol shlosha l'shoinus, Yodeya Yedua Mada, Kvoi Kedushas ad Rabbeinu maske l'akshei l'shoinus. Loshin Yedua eine maske, Ela shebepedig beis magdim le'mada le'yodea, pedig dalad magdim yodea le'mada. Why? Kama davar hu lefisha toyer yodea urak la'davar abo betulda. K'moya machoin abo ketuldas ichud askola v'amaska. V'kam bepedig beis v'dalad medabar hoit k'veit kedushas rabbeinu v'yichud anashama v'atoyra. Eine shayich loimer rak shnei atoyra mada v'yodea. Meretach nicht wegen der Welt. Beide Eibishter, meretach ganze Welt. So we're saying the Mada Yodua and the Yoidea, which is the Mada is the Kilu Seichel, the Yoidea is the person, Kilu the Eibishter is the person over here, and the Deya is how we apply it. How we apply it, everything in this world is applied. So, but in Tanya, we're not talking about the Welt. We're talking about either the Neshama and Pedig Beis, or we're talking about the Torah. The Neshama and the Torah are both not applied. They're the Etzim. They're the Mada and the Yodeya. They're not the Deya. Then they're not. Therefore, liyoshneim atzmim einay noifel bohem hatoyer yedua. I term a yuva masher bepedig beis magdim mad liyodea. Bepedig dalad magdim yodea lamad. The bepedig beis medaber b'maylas haneshama shem shechitz v'machshavtei v'chachmosa. It's coming down the neshama from the Eibush itself. And we want to say that the neshama and the Eibush is one. Why? Because the neshama comes from the Eibush's chachma. Very good. I happen to patent 3 patents. And if you read my patent, did me and you become all of a sudden one? Did we become Siamese twins? No. So, but the Eibush is nicht so. The Eibush is nicht so. But the Eibush is miyuchad mikol tzad v'pina. And who v'chachma seyechet. So the neshama is nimshach from the Eibush's chachma. So we're saying that hu amada v'hu hayodeya medaber b'maylos neshama shenimshach b'machshavte v'chachma magdim. Mada shua atzmi, machav bezal atzmusay, kolem ma mada shua atzmus, nimshcha neshama shua yedei li is chelak min ha'atzmus. V'zeh meduik loshen, kveit kedushas rabbeinu b'perek daled, b'daita shayna shel neshama. Never mind that deal. B'perek daled, shemedaba binyan ha'toyre, shehu ha'yodeya, v'dvuka ba'atzmus, shehu ha'mada, v'lachem magdim, higdim yedei l'mada. I think what he's saying like this. The neshama is coming down. When you're learning Torah, which is the levushe and the shama, you're trying to go up. Hayois the seder is mada yoidea yodua. We're not, when we're talking about shama and Torah, it's not shaykh to say yodua. The Eibishter is saying, well, mada yoidea yodua, everything is one by the Eibishter. When you're saying the shama and Torah is only mada yoidea. But when the neshama is coming down, the neshama is one with the Eibishter.
The practical mises of the Torah you do. This is what you're applying it to.
He's talking about the Etzema Torah, I guess.
Not the lima.
Yeah. Within Torah, Amadi de Yedua.
Right.
I'm saying the tzad, where the way it's coming from the Eibishter, Torah, once you're ready, every Toysus has Amadi de Yedua.
Right.
But so the Eibishter was saying that it's Madi Yedea. Torah and Neshamas have a shaykhus to Madi and Yedea, not Yedua. But within the Neshama,
there's the baby loan in the stomach, right?
Yeah.
It's no good. There's a neshama
Good.
going there.
Yeah, but later, when the Neshama,
This is mother.
so when the Neshama comes down, it's Mada. Mada is the highest. We said before, Melamayla Lamata is Mada, and then there's Yodeya. But when a Yid learns Torah, he's going from Mata Lamaila.
Yeah, and then Mada.
So therefore, it's Yoidea and then Mata, because he's going up. We said that Seder Malamayla Lamata is Mada Yoidea Yedua. Forget about Yedua. So it's Mada Yoidea. So the Neshama is coming down, it's Mada Yoidea. And when a Yid is learning Torah, the Lavusha Neshama, it's Yoidea and Mada.
How many little Padia?
What year was this?
So now you understand why why did the Frierdiker Rebbe have to give a whole Agdoma? Not everyone, that most people don't understand the full depth of the Tanya. And really, the Alter Rebbe, every ois was chosav yesed, and it was bediuk nifla. But even if you don't fully understand it, don't worry, it's going to help the Eis and the Shama. But it's kedai to put in the full effort to fully understand. Why is he telling all these stories? Now, you know why he told Agdom of all these stories. Maybe shall help him that you limit that time, Tanya, that we should take it, we should bemis, that the pool of the Tanya is that it should come out, that we should understand seichel of the key, that alts is ebishtek. That's what it really means to be a chosed. It really means to be a chosed is that everything is the ebishtek. What really means to be a chosed is that everything is the ebishtek.
Like the husband, the bottom line.
Yeah, and you can't, and that thing you can't trick yourself, because if a person knows that he has daigus and Inyan Olam has but it's not talking about the gimel ovus nazikin of kina taiva v'chovet. We're talking about I'm repeating from a Farbrengen that I just said tonight from Rav Heller. He said a beautiful word that there's a kina v'taiva v'chovet. These are the gimel ovus nazikin. But then there is, the Chassidim said that the Gimel Avos Nazikin is Bona Chayim Azoyna. What do you think about yourself, B'chlal? So, a Chassid, and B'chlal, if you look at Chassidim, you'd find that there were people that were very happy people. Never mind that they never had Kina, Taiva, V'Kovid, but they never had Daigus. They never had Daigus. They never had stress. They never had anxiety. They never had tirdis b'chlal, and they lived in ganz another level. Why? Because Alts is the Eibishter. Everything is the Eibishter. It's everything. It's a ganz another Sache. So that's really the Nakuda of Tanya. So Yidzol, to rewire the whole head. It doesn't take a minute. But if we understand the full depth tonight, why here he said Mada Yodeya for the Neshama, for Torah he said Deya and Mada. If we understand, or we don't fully understand, just by learning these oisis at Torah, it's Torah Seruchnis, and it's Megala the Eisen Neshama, Dev shall help them, Shabin Gala the Eisen of every one of our Neshama, and we should be nikr by us in our daily life. That's in a Shtok and Welt, it's only Eibishtek.
So different also.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yeah, pretty much. Herschel Shkech.